Hi guys, Grand J here and welcome to another one of our videos. Today we'll be talking about the light and dark cards of Opus 5. We've only got 4 cards to talk about, so it's going to be a bit of a short video. So the first card we'll be talking about is the light legendary of the set. It is Van. It is a 5-cost forward at 8,000 power, so it's a little bit below the curve. But when Van attacks, select 2 of the 5 following actions. Draw a card, choose one backup, activate it, choose one forward, dull it, choose one forward, it gains plus 2,000 power until the end of the turn, or choose one forward, it cannot block this turn. So these are a lot of very good abilities, and yeah, they are all very strong, but obviously the big issue with Van is that it doesn't have haste, and these abilities only trigger off when Van attacks. So Van, Van, in order to play Van effectively, you're going to want to give him haste, which means that there's typically two colors that are going to pair out well with him. So Lightning and Fire both have ways to give their forwards haste, and those are the colors that you probably want to play Van in. The fact that Van is a light forward is good, which means you don't have to play a secondary color in order to play Van. So if Van were, so typically Van is a wind card. So yeah, in this situation, you aren't forced into playing a fire wind or a lightning wind type deck because this is a light card. So potentially this is a card that we could potentially see being thrown into a fire deck or being thrown into a lightning deck for pretty good value actually. So by itself, not particularly too amazing, but if you can give it haste, being able to attack and then draw a card and reactivate reactivate a backup, that's effectively free CP that you have regained. So that's pretty solid. Yeah, you can dull it forward. So in terms of aggressiveness, the bottom 3 abilities are its aggressive abilities, and the first 2 abilities are sort of resource regeneration or resource generation. If your opponent doesn't really have anything threatening as a defensive blocker, then you can just activate the first 2 abilities to activate a backup and to draw a card. That's free CP that you get back. And then depending on the situation, if the board becomes a little bit more stalemated, you can dull one of your opponent's forwards and choose a forward that can't block. So it's a very good attacker, and it's able to get through a lot of defense because you are able to dull a forward and you are able to make another one unable to block. So that's 2 forwards you're able to disable in a single combat. Which makes this card pretty strong, and also the ability to choose a forward, give it plus 2,000 power for the turn is actually very strong as well. So this card is basically an aggressive card. That will be able to get through a lot of blockers. And if there's a situation where you don't need help getting over blockers, you can just generate resources with him. The fact that he does cost 5 is a little bit pricey, and the fact that he doesn't have an immediate ability does make this card a little bit undesirable. That being said, though, he is a pretty powerful card when you can trigger off its ability. The fact that he's a light card, which means you can play it into any type of deck, and there's no color restrictions, means you're free to put it into whatever decks that you want, which is typically going to be fire and lightning in my opinion. In those situations, playing Van is actually very strong. Next, we got Wall. It is a 4-cost forward at 7,000 power. It's a bit below the curve, but when Wall enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Add 1 Job Warrior Light among them into your hand, and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. So in that regard, Wall becomes a 4-cost forward, or a 2-cost forward at 7,000 power, which is above the curve, with the caveat that you have to be able to find a Warrior Light from the top 5 cards of your deck. So that being said, you're generally going to want to have as many Warrior Lights in your deck as possible, and since the Warrior Lights all tend to be of multiple colors, you're kind of locked into playing multicolor in order to use this Warrior of Light effectively. Its second ability is when Wall is put from the field into break zone, choose 1 Job Warrior Light of cost 3 or less in your break zone and play it onto the field. So that's actually really strong as well. So basically you're getting a 2 CP forward at 7,000 power that can put in a free CP 7,000 power forward when it dies. So that's actually a huge amount of value, but the caveat is that you have to play multiple Warrior Lights in your deck. I don't think it's really possible with a single color. Even if you have free Wall, free Light Warrior Light, and free of the color of specific Warrior Light in your deck, that's only 9 targets. That doesn't give you a very good odds in terms of finding a Warrior Light in the top 5 cards of your deck. So generally, you're probably going to need to play at least 2 or 3 colors at least in order to make this card effective. If you do go for the fun 4-color Warrior Light deck, this also happens to be pretty solid because it allows you to color fix. So you'll probably have 1 or 2 colors as your primary color. So typically it's going to be Earth, Water, probably going to be your main colors for the Warrior Light decks. So you're going to be able to play the Earth and the Water for Warrior Light pretty easily. Because this Warrior Light is colorless, or is light, he can be played with any type of CP, and he can put any any of the warrior lights back onto the field. So you can use this ability to put back one of the other off-color warrior lights, such as the fire warrior light or such as the wind warrior light that you generally struggle a little bit more to play with. So yeah, in those situations, you can just decide like the wind warrior light to play this card, and then at some point this card's going to die, then you can put the wind card into play. So yeah, so in that regard, this card's really good value, but it is locked itself into a very particular niche. But yeah, that niche is actually very, very strong, as all the warrior lights give each other buffs. Yeah, this is a great addition to the deck. Next is the Dark Legendary of the set. It's Aldnark. It's a 6-cost forward at 10,000 power, so it's a really, really powerful forward. If Aldnark leaves the field, return Aldnark to your hand instead. So yeah, this includes if it's being put into your break zone, as well as being removed from the field, and just dying in combat in general. So Aldnark will always return to your hand if it leaves the field. And it's got its S ability, Paradise. So for just S, take one more turn after this one. At the end of that turn, you lose the game. So this is a very potent ability, really strong S ability, but obviously it comes with a lot of risk as well. But potentially there are situations where you might be able to take one more additional turn and force out wins with it. So that does give those decks some very interesting plays that they can do. So yeah, so in my opinion, this card's actually not bad. So like just from its base ability, yeah, costing 6 CP to put it onto the field actually isn't too bad, considering that you are getting this card back when it dies. So in effect, it's kind of a 6 CP forward that will return 2 CP back to you at some point. And then you can play it again and repeat this process. So in effect, it does become a pseudo 4 CP forward, in the fact that it does get you its body back again when it does die. So that's an interesting thing to note. So in sort of removal heavy matchups, potentially this card is one of those cards that you can just play down as kind of just like fodder. Every time you put this down, your opponent can use removal, but it just puts this card resource back into your hand, which means that you can like just play it onto the field again later on. Not only that, there's also some interesting combinations with this. So like if you combine it with Magic Pot, you're able to sacrifice this card, which then puts it back to your hand, and then puts an Aldnark from your deck back onto the field. Which yeah, now you've got an Aldnark on the field and an Aldnark in hand. You can then Paradise straight away. So yeah, so that's a fun little combo you can do. Obviously, you'd only do it when you're sort of like pressing for the game, and you can like just like win with that next turn. That being said, though, it's a very risky play. So generally, in a situation where if you took one more turn and you would win, you're generally in a pretty good situation. It's a very risky situation where the board is stalemated and you need to take that one more turn. You have to like know that your opponent's got no more responses, and you have to play in a way that your opponent can't use EX Burst to like sort of stall the game out. So if you do use Paradise, and like unfortunately if you hit a unfortunate EX Burst, you just lose the game straight away. Which means like sometimes you might just rather not use the Paradise and just risk playing a slightly slower drawn out game. But yeah, that being said, though, as a last resort, potentially it can turn games around, especially if they're very close. Yeah, it's not a sort of a card, it's not a sort of style that I like to play. I generally like to sort of like build up resources and to sort of get an advantage on the opponent. But potentially, like in say like an ice deck, where if you dull and frozen opponents forwards and you've got their field locked down, this is potentially one of those big power plays you can play to just close out a game then and there. And finally, the last card of the set is Camelot. Is a 5-cost forward at 9,000 power. When Camelot enters the field, you may search for one dark card and add it to your hand. Camelot cannot be chosen by summons or abilities that share its element. At the beginning of your main phase 1, select one element. Camelot becomes that element. Brackets, this effect does not end at the end of turn. So first of all, the fact that he does get you a dark card is actually pretty solid. It does kind of pseudo make him a 3-cost 9,000 power forward, even though it is a dark card that you can't use for CP. So that is something to consider. But yeah, so it is actually very good value. As a 5-cost 9k, searching you for a card is actually pretty good. The place where this card really shines is any sort of multicolored deck. Being able to use Camelot to search out Chaos, especially in the early game, especially if you only have one copy of it, is really good. You can use any color CPs to put Camelot into play. He can search for the Chaos, you can then put that down straight away, and immediately your deck is now color fixed. So Camelot is going to be one of those cards that if your deck has multiple colors in like the two or in the maybe like 3 or 4 color range, and you want to be able to color fix, and you're not locked to playing specific light or dark cards, then Camelot is a great addition to the deck. Yeah, in terms of the second ability of not being able to be chosen by summons or abilities that share its element, this actually makes it a very good like counterplay type card in certain scenarios. So if your opponent is playing like a single color deck, this card basically basically becomes, as soon as it comes back to your turn, a forward that can't be chosen by summons or abilities. Yeah. So this card is actually really, really strong, and if decks aren't using like certain other dark cards or certain other light cards already, Camelot's a great addition. In addition, after he has changed his color, or change his element to a different element, you can play more dark element cards. Yeah, whether it's in the form of Altnarch or whether it's in the form of Emperor. After Camelot has switched, he allows you to play other stuff, and it becomes a very powerful forward after that as well. So this card is actually very strong, and it's got uses in both tempo, aggression, and control type decks. So so I'm really excited to like test them out in a lot of different decks and see like how he sort of stacks up against the other dark cards that we have available in the game. And that's it for the light and dark cards. So this is a shorter video, obviously because we've got 4 cards in the set to talk about. We've got only one more video left for our Opus 5 set review. We'll be talking about the new starter deck cards and checking out the new exclusive cards that you can only get in those starter decks, and also as like foil variants in Opus 5. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do let me know about your thoughts or any feedback on this video. And if you guys enjoyed this video, definitely thumbs up and subscribe. Until next time, Grand J out.